Hi, this is Alex, and this is a new story on my channel.
AITA for kicking my sister out of my wedding after she announced her pregnancy during my reception. I, 29 female, married my husband, Ethan, 31 male, last weekend, and what should have been the happiest day of my life turned into a tangled emotional mess because of my sister, Lily, 27 female. Some quick background before I get into it. Ethan and I have been together for 6 years. We met through mutual friends, started dating pretty casually, and over time, he became the absolute anchor in my life. He proposed last summer, and the past year has been a whirlwind of planning, budgeting, Pinterest boards, cake tastings, and me trying to navigate the minefield that is family politics. Lily and I have always had what I'd call a complicated relationship. We're close in the sense that we grew up in the same house and shared a lot of life events, but not close in the tell each other everything kind of way. She's always been the more outgoing one, bubbly, magnetic, always surrounded by people. I've always been more low key, introverted, the think before I speak type. The problem is, somewhere along the way, that difference turned into competition. Or maybe it always was competition, but I was just too young to notice. Family dinners would turn into performance nights where Lily would tell some dramatic story about her life while I sat quietly. If I won an award in school, she'd have bigger news the same week. I could never prove she did it on purpose, but there's a long string of moments where my happiness became her stage. Despite this, I wanted her at my wedding, not just as a guest, but as my sister. She wasn't a bridesmaid, mostly because I have a small wedding party and chose two childhood friends, but she was invited to all the showers, the rehearsal dinner, everything. I thought maybe this time would be different, that she'd see it was my day and just let it be bad. Spoiler, I was wrong. To really understand why I reacted the way I did at the wedding, you need the backstory. Because this wasn't some random, isolated incident. It felt like the final straw in a very, very long series of straws. Lily and I are 2 years apart, and as far back as I can remember, she's been the center of attention. My parents adore both of us, but if I'm being honest, they've always treated her like the family's little celebrity. I don't think it was malicious. Lily just has that type of personality that draws people in. She's charming, quick with jokes, and never seems afraid of saying the wrong thing. When you're a kid, that makes you the fun one. When you're a teenager, that makes you the cool one. When I was 10 and had my birthday party at the local pool, Lily, then 8, managed to convince half my friends to watch her do a synchronized swimming routine she'd invented instead of watching me open presents. My mom laughed, took pictures, and told her how creative she was. I sat there on a plastic lounge chair, dripping wet, smiling for the sake of it, but I remember feeling replaced. In high school, I worked for weeks on a school art project that got picked for a regional competition. The day my mom told the family, Lily announced that she'd been asked to sing the national anthem at the basketball game that Friday. My grandparents ended up talking about her performance for the rest of dinner. My painting? Barely a mention. Even as adults, it hasn't changed much. When I got promoted at work last year, she interrupted my little guess what happened today moment with, oh my God, guess what? We might be moving into a bigger apartment. They didn't even end up moving. Now, I want to be clear. I don't think Lily does this with pure malice every time. Some of it might just be her natural instinct to share, to perform, to be in the center. But the cumulative effect over years is that I've learned to temper my excitement around her, to hold my breath when I'm telling her something big, because there's always this chance she'll redirect the spotlight. So when Ethan and I started planning the wedding, I made a conscious decision to keep certain moments just for us. I didn't give out too many personal details about the vows or decor. I didn't even tell her my dress style, partly because I wanted the surprise, but partly because I wanted something that couldn't be overshadowed until the day itself. I kept telling myself, she's my sister. She'll understand. She wouldn't do that at my wedding. Famous last words. The morning of my wedding felt unreal. I'd barely slept the night before, not from nerves about Ethan, he's the one thing I've never been unsure about, but from a weird buzzing anticipation. Months of planning, stress, and budgeting were finally about to pay off. I woke up to my maid of honor handing me coffee and a breakfast sandwich, telling me she was under strict orders from Ethan to make sure I actually ate something. My bridesmaids were already playing music in the background, someone was steaming the dresses, and my makeup artist arrived right on time. It was chaotic in the best way possible. The venue was one of those restored barns with huge windows and a wraparound deck overlooking a lake. In the morning light, the whole place looked like something out of a wedding magazine. Even my hair, which I'd been panicking about for months, somehow decided to cooperate. Lily showed up about an hour before the ceremony. She looked gorgeous, of course, in a pale sage dress we had picked to match the wedding colors. She gave me a quick hug and said, "You look amazing." But there was this distracted look in her eyes, like her mind was somewhere else. I chalked it up to pre ceremony hustle and moved on. There were photographers hovering and a million tiny decisions to make. The ceremony itself was everything I had hoped for. Ethan cried during his vows, which made half the guests cry. And when we walked back down the aisle as husband and wife, it felt like this massive, joyous wave had just washed over us. The cocktail hour was lively, guests mingling and music playing, little plates of appetizers disappearing almost instantly. Lily seemed fine. She chatted with my friends, laughed at some of the groomsmen's jokes, and even helped my aunt find the gift table. Nothing about her behavior suggested there was a storm brewing. By the time we moved into the reception, I was feeling that warm, fuzzy mix of exhaustion and bliss. We had our first dance to one of our favorite songs, my dad gave a short but heartfelt speech, and the clinking of glasses for us to kiss kept happening every 5 minutes. The photographer kept pulling us aside for quick golden hour shots on the deck, and every time I glanced back inside, I could see our guests laughing, eating, and enjoying themselves. It was perfect. Absolutely perfect. And then it wasn't. We had just finished dinner, and it was almost time for me to give my little thank you speech, the one that I've been rehearsing in my head for weeks. I wanted to thank our parents, our friends who had traveled, and of course, Ethan for being Ethan. The DJ was adjusting the mic stand when I noticed Lily stand up at her table. She tapped her glass with her fork, that sharp ting-ting-ting sound that makes every guest's head swivel. At first, I assumed she just wanted to say something sweet about me and Ethan. That would have been fine. Cute, even. Instead, she cleared her throat, smiled like she was about to win an award, and said, "So, I have some exciting news to share." She paused for dramatic effect. My stomach tightened. "I'm pregnant." For a second, the room was silent. I think my brain refused to process the words at first. Then the cheers started. People gasped, clapped, stood up to hug her. My mom burst into tears. My dad looked like someone had just handed him $1 million check. And just like that, the entire energy of the night shifted. Guests were leaving their tables to go congratulate Lily. I saw two of Ethan's cousins, who I'd never met before today, hugging her and asking how far along she was. People pulled out their phones to take pictures of her. Not us. Not the bride and groom whose reception this was. The DJ, looking a little lost, lowered the mic he had been about to hand me. My maid of honor leaned over and whispered, "Are you kidding me right now?" I just stood there, smiling stiffly. I could feel my pulse in my ears. The warm, happy bubble I had been in for hours popped so violently it almost made me dizzy. The worst part is that she looked thrilled. Not just about the pregnancy, which, fine, I would have been happy for her if she told me literally any other time, but thrilled at the reaction. She was glowing under the attention. I finally made my way over to her. I think I even clapped my hands together in that fake yay way, just so people wouldn't immediately notice I was seething. I asked, quietly, "Why now?" She blinked at me like I was speaking another language. What? "The announcement," I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "You hijacked my wedding reception to tell everyone you're pregnant." She blinked, then actually smiled, like I was being ridiculous. I thought it would be nice. Everyone's here, the family's together, everyone's already in a good mood. It's not like I was trying to steal anything from you. I just wanted to share my joy. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because I was so angry that my body was looking for any release. You didn't just share your joy, you shifted the entire focus of the night. Do you realize the DJ literally stopped handing me the mic so you could make your announcement? She rolled her eyes. You're overreacting. People can be happy for both of us. It's not a competition. That word, competition, hit me like a punch. Because deep down, I think she knows that's exactly what it always feels like between us. It's my wedding day, I said slowly. It's supposed to be the one day in my life where it's about me and Ethan, and you chose right now to make this about you. Her smile finally dropped. Wow, selfish much? I thought you'd be happy for me, but I guess it's always about you, huh? I stared at her for a long second. My hands were trembling, not because I was scared, but because I was so full of adrenaline and hurt. I could already feel tears pressing at the back of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall in front of her. I think you should leave, I said finally. She scoffed. Are you serious? I'm not going anywhere. That's when Ethan showed up. He must have seen my face from across the room because he didn't even ask what happened. He just stepped between us, put a hand on my shoulder, and said to Lily, I think it's best if you go. Lily laughed under her breath like this was all some dramatic overreaction. But when our best man joined Ethan and gently motioned toward the door, she realized we weren't backing down. She muttered something about me being insane and ruining my own night before walking off. And just like that, she was gone, escorted out of my wedding. When I walked back into the reception hall, I could feel the change in the air immediately. It wasn't like people were throwing wine glasses or anything dramatic, it was quieter. The buzz of laughter from earlier had turned into low murmurs. Groups huddled together at tables, eyes darting between me and the door Lily had just walked out of. My parents were nowhere in sight. My stomach sank. The DJ, bless him, tried to get things back on track by announcing the cake cutting. I plastered on my best nothing happened smile and let Ethan guide me over to the table. We did the cheesy arm link bite for the photos, but when I look back on those pictures now, I can see it in my face. That glazed, slightly too wide smile you give when you're holding back tears. During the next slow song, I noticed my mom slipping out toward the parking lot. My dad followed a minute later. I had this awful sinking feeling that they'd gone to comfort Lily instead of, staying for their other daughter's wedding. Some guests came up to me quietly to say they understood, that it was my day and Lily had been way out of line. But others avoided my eyes completely. One of my aunts actually muttered unbelievable under her breath when she passed me, and I'm pretty sure she wasn't talking about Lily. I tried to salvage the night. I really did. I danced with my friends, took silly photo booth pictures, and did my best to enjoy the last few hours, but the magic was gone. That warm, sparkly feeling I had had during the ceremony and dinner was replaced with this heavy, sticky discomfort. The worst part was that I could hear the whispers. Not just imagined ones, actual literal whispers. A cousin asking another cousin what happened, someone else saying, I heard she told her to leave, someone else saying, she's pregnant for God's sake. Every so often, Ethan would give my hand a squeeze or lean in to tell me he loved me, and that helped me keep it together. But deep down, I knew the night wasn't going to end the way I dreamed it would. By the time the last song played, I felt like I had aged about 10 years. We did the sparkler send off and smiled for the cameras, but the second we got into the getaway car, my smile fell. I remember staring out the window, watching the lights of the venue fade, and thinking, she got me again. The morning after the wedding, Ethan and I woke up in our hotel suite to a phone vibrating on the nightstand. It was my mom. I hesitated before answering. Part of me hoped it was a call to say, we love you, we're proud of you, congratulations. It wasn't. The second I said hello, she launched in. How could you do that to your sister? Do you have any idea how humiliating that was for her? I literally had to pull the phone away from my ear. Humiliating for her? She announced she was pregnant at my wedding, Mom. She was sharing happy news with the family. She didn't mean to take anything away from you. You made a scene by kicking her out. I could feel my chest tightening. She could have told everyone any other day, any other time. She didn't even tell me privately first. She thought you'd be happy for her, my mom said, her voice dripping with disappointment. But I guess you've always had trouble letting her have a moment. That one hit me like a slap. I wanted to scream that she's had every moment, that I've spent my whole life swallowing my own joy so hers could take the spotlight. But instead, I just said, I'm done with this conversation, and hung up. 5 minutes later, I got a text from my dad. You owe your sister an apology. By noon, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Cousins, aunts, even a couple of family friends. Half of them saying they couldn't believe I'd done that. The other half quietly telling me I'd done the right thing. One of Ethan's groomsmen sent me a screenshot of a Facebook post Lily had made. Some people can't handle when others have good news. Sad that such a joyful announcement had to be met with anger. But I guess not everyone has a big enough heart to celebrate others' happiness. Baby coming January, red heart. The comments underneath were full of sympathy for her. You didn't deserve that. Some people are just jealous. Ignore the haters. Not one person mentioned that she'd done it at my wedding. Even told me to put my phone down, and I tried. But every time I thought about it, I got that same hot, prickly feeling in my chest. The thought that this one perfect day I'd been planning for a year was now being remembered by half my family as the day I ruined my sister's pregnancy announcement made me want to scream into a pillow. We were supposed to spend the day lounging in bed, eating leftover cake, and talking about the honeymoon. Instead, I spent it defending myself to people who didn't even bother to ask for my side of the story. It's been a week since the wedding, and I still can't stop replaying it in my head. The moment she stood up and tapped that glass, the look on her face when she said, I'm pregnant, the way the whole room shifted like a magnet toward her. I keep thinking about all the ways I could have handled it differently. Maybe I could have just swallowed it, smiled, let her have her moment, and then taken back the mic for my speech. Maybe I could have pulled her aside later and told her how I felt without asking her to leave. But then maybe that's exactly what I've always done. Just swallowed it, just let it go, just pretended it didn't bother me when it did. And every time I've done that, it's felt like I'm erasing myself a little bit more. This was supposed to be my day. The one day in my entire life where I could be selfish without guilt, where I could stand in the center, hold Ethan's hand, and just shine. And she took that from me, whether she meant to or not. The part that stings the most is how quick my family was to jump to her defense. Not one of them called me to say, I'm sorry she did that. Not one of them acknowledged how awkward and hurtful it must have been. Instead, I'm the villain for ruining the mood. I've started avoiding my phone altogether because I can't take another vague Facebook post or another passive-aggressive text about family unity. Ethan says he's proud of me for setting a boundary, but even with his support, there's this heavy pit in my stomach. Because now, when I think about my wedding, I don't just think about the vows or the dancing or the cake. I think about Lily's announcement. I think about her smile. I think about my mom leaving the reception to go console her. I hate that. I hate that she's in my memories of that day more than some of the people I actually wanted there. So here I am, internet strangers, stuck between knowing I had every right to be upset and wondering if I blew up my own wedding by reacting the way I did. I feel like I was defending my own moment, but maybe I was petty and over the top. Am I the asshole for kicking my sister out of my wedding?